Welcome to another episode of the Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Dr. Dave Peltz, and along with me is my esteemed colleague, Dr. Joe Hamlett. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, Dr. Dave.
Awesome,
Thanks for
awesome.
asking.
Yeah. And so for those of you who are returning, we'd like to thank you for returning. If you're new to the show, we hope you enjoy it. We try to do our best to keep it lively and light, and I think I'm always funnier than what I am, so that's our comedic relief. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, we are the Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast. We're the personal, professional, and career development podcast. And yeah, that's here what we're here to do. Um, Today we have a very special guest speaker, Nathan Sweeting, who hails from the Bahamas, which is where Joe and I strive to venture
Yes.
and live out the rest of our
One of these
days.
days.
So, Nathan, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you guys for having me here. And Bahamas is the place to be. I just want to inject that. I love the Bahamas. So I'm a speaker and a mindset coach. I help more ambitious individuals to break bad habits like procrastination and master their mindset, mainly in the areas of resilience and consistency. I'm a husband of 11 years. I'm a father of one beautiful daughter. She's 11 at this point, almost turning 12. A lover of life, very simple person. Um, as far as what I do professionally, most of my clients have a challenge with consistency. So when it comes to, health goals, personal development, professional development, it's actually getting started, but even worse or even more major is staying consistent with it. I teach based on my life transformation. So I don't know how much your viewers would have read about me, but I lost almost 50 pounds. I was able to quit an 18-year addiction, which was not easy at all. I overcame an intense fear of public speaking, and I actually turned public speaking into a career after that. And I moved from basically living a carefree and reckless lifestyle to really being purpose driven and goal oriented. And I attribute each of those transformations to my mindset. There's an insight that I quote that I came up with. Your mind influences your emotions impact your habits, and your habits determine your results. So if you want to produce intentional results, you have to first master your mindset. And that's the quote that I live by.
Nice. And
Wow.
you know what? That is the perfect lead in for our topic today, uh, which is mindset. So, uh, so yeah, so we want to learn more about your story and what you share about the topic of mindset. So take it away.
Definitely. Like I said, your mindset is the starting point of all transformation. Even when you look at, let's say for a lot of my clients they're inconsistent with their health journey, with their health goals because of procrastination, overthinking, time management. But even when it comes to, because the fact is losing weight is kind of easy, but keeping it off is the difficult part.
Right. Yep.
And a lesson I learned through my physical transformation was to focus on the journey and not just the goal itself. Originally, I lost the weight, and but the goal was really and it's so funny. The reason I lost all that weight and got six pack abs and everything transformed my body was because I wanted pictures of myself with muscles, right? I
Okay.
didn't want muscles. I wanted pictures of myself with muscles to post on social media.
Okay.
And
Got it.
that led me to losing most of the weight and completely transforming my body. And of course, I did a photo shoot afterwards, right?
Congratulations.
But I say that to say when we have a strong enough reason for achieving our goals, there's absolutely nothing that can stop us.
Yep.
I live by the principle that whatever stops you from getting to where you need to be is an excuse, no matter what it
Yep.
is. You do have some
Yep.
good excuses, but it's still an excuse,
Right.
right?
Wow.
And I realized that one of the major uh, stopping points or one of the major obstacles to goal achievement is not having a strong enough reason, not having a strong enough why. because after I had achieved that transformation, I got my pictures and I started posting on social media. I was like, all right, I have no reason to keep going in the gym twice a day anymore. So I stopped and I gained the weight back. And
Oh,
I gained some of
Oh,
the weight
wow.
back.
Okay.
I lost the abs, lost the muscular definition, and because I didn't have a strong enough reason to. And that's when I decided to focus on lifestyle. So my reason now and how I've been able to maintain my weight and my health all of these years is because I want to, my why is for lifestyle. I want this to last until I'm a very old man. You see,
Right.
so I'm in the maintenance phase of my health journey. When it comes to when I quit the addiction, I tried to quit that addiction several times, and I didn't know how for the life of me I was going to stop because it was a smoking addiction. I used to smoke about 15 times every day, 7 days a week,
wow.
Wow.
literally. From I woke up in the mornings, as you know, before I brush my teeth, after I brush my teeth, before I ate breakfast, lunch, dinner, and on my break for work, I literally was smoking the entire day for 7 days a week for 18 years.
Mm.
Wow.
And I really didn't. I tried to quit. I threw away all my stuff, tried to quit, ended up buying more and smoking again. And I realized once again that I was looking at it wrong. One of the things that I realized, one of the major turning points for that addiction was changing who I thought my self identity was, who I was identifying myself with.
Mm.
So, up until I was able to quit, I was identifying myself as being a smoker,
Mm.
which means that was a part of who I am. I am a smoker. If you had asked me back then, I would say, yeah, I'm a smoker. Wherever I go, you have to make provisions for me to smoke because I was a smoker. When I started to shift my mindset from me being a smoker to smoking is just a habit I had, now it was easier for me to break that chain, break that hold over me because now I'm not trying to change an identity, I'm just trying to break a habit. It's much easier to break a habit than it is to change your self identity. You
Wow.
Wow.
see? But
Wow.
that's a
Yeah.
major mind shift I had to learn.
Right. Wow. Well, you touched on several things that me and David talked about on the podcast, but you kind of rolled them up into one one thing. And so you mentioned procrastination. That is a big um,
Yeah.
hold back or resistance to you changing, you doing things is that procrastination. And then you also said overthinking. Me and Dave actually have a podcast early on where we talked about overthinking, that we, try to get it exactly right. It had to be perfect. And all we did was just continue to prolong the teetered into procrastination. The other thing you mentioned, which I also appreciated, was you said look at things as a journey and not as just goal completion. And that's, again, me and Dave have been talking about that for the last 3 years. That's why the podcast is Journeys of Not So Ordinary People. It's because it is about the journey. Everything we're doing today is part of this journey. All three of us on this podcast is part of this journey. And so we've actually been talking about that quite a bit lately, just because, again, we all of our journeys are relevant. All these things that you've accomplished are, tied into your journey, where you started, where you are today. So I really appreciate those, just those three things already. Wow, it's already been impactful to hear some of the things you're talking about. So
Yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely. I love that you said that everything starts with a mindset. And
yeah,
to Joe's point when we were talking offline just before the show, you know, Joe started his education journey later in life. I was 30 when I started mine, and we started for different reasons, but
yeah,
the mindset to start and stop, which we both did, and then start back up again and stick with it and focusing on the journey as well as the goal, and then what's beyond that journey once you achieve that goal, that lifestyle. It was really a lifestyle change when you think about it. Everything that we do in our journey, in our personal, professional, and career journeys is a conscious choice, and it's deliberate, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. Like you said, it's
right, yeah,
most of why I can't are just excuses. There are some exceptions, but that's really what it boils down to. And we said this offline. Instead of saying I can't, say how can I. So I'm yeah, you're just spot on with everything that Joe and I talk about, and so glad you're on the show today. So I'm going to stop talking because I want to hear more.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It is a journey. You have to look at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Because even when you focus on the goal, that could be, you can lose a lot of motivation if you just focus on
Hmm.
your goal,
Yep.
especially if you're a person, and my clients are people who have ambitious goals because they're ambitious individuals. And when you look at just focusing on the goal itself, say you want to start a business, you want to scale a business, you want to lose the weight, you want to quit the addiction. If you just look at the end result, then you're not going to have small wins to look forward to during the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
And it's identifying small wins along the way that helps to boost motivation, that keeps you focused, that helps to eliminate the distractions and the excuses. But you got to become aware of them. You have to be intentional about seeing, you have to be intentional about observing your journey,
Right.
you
Yep.
know, your wins, your losses,
Yeah.
um, your failures, who you are becoming. It's building that awareness of your journey so you can continue going, so you can stay consistent. Because there's so many distractions in life.
Yeah.
That's from people to circumstances to obstacles. So it's up to us as individuals to keep ourselves focused on the things that matters most, which is achieving the goals, adding value, becoming who we need to become to get to where we need to be.
Wow.
That's, yeah, that's power. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Joe.
again, just another powerful segment that you just put out there. I mean, you're right, and that was my downfall initially when I went back to school. Was I was looking too far beyond. I had set this goal, to achieve my bachelor's degree at the time, and all
Mm,
I could see that it was going to take me 3 years or 4 years to complete that, and I almost got discouraged right away. I mean, within my second class, I almost, because I had, Dave said we started stop before. I had started and stopped school 4 times prior to that
wow.
because I could not see the end state. And that just really concerned me that it was going to take longer. And it wasn't until I started to break it into smaller chunks. I started looking at, okay, I'm taking a course right now. Then I broke it down into even, okay, week by week, just again, so I could see, like you said, those small wins that kept me motivated to continue. And before I knew it, 9 years later, I, not only finished a bachelor's, but an MBA, but a doctorate. It was because of that approach, seeing those small goals, keeping that momentum flowing. And that's what was so powerful for me because I just went straight through because I knew I had the momentum. I had it on my side and I wasn't going to lose it for anything because, again, I knew I had already started and stopped several times before that or many times before that. So for me, that breaking it down into smaller chunks was absolutely the win for me. That's what got me to that point. So again, you're wow, you're just speaking. To again, me and Dave both have talked about this, but it's great to hear this is what you're doing for a living and that you're passing this on to other people. So, yeah, thanks for those those
Yeah.
words again.
Yeah, and I like what
Definitely.
like how you tie in that critical self-reflection where you have to you go back to some of those painful things that you have experienced and return and examine how you were able to overcome those obstacles and challenges, and then revisit the successes on saying, hey, I was able to do this. That's a big
Yeah.
part of what Joe and I talk about, is that critical self-reflection. The other big piece that I'm really fixated on is that self-identity piece that you keep bringing up. You
Yeah,
identify as a this, I identify as a that. I'm an engineer, I'm a smoker, I'm a drug addict, I'm a criminal, I'm a, you know, CEO or whatever. It's how you identify with yourself that sets you up for success or failure. and
Hmm.
and to keep, it's almost like that negative reinforcement. If you're not focusing on the positive self-identification that you want, or the identity that you want, and you keep focusing on the negative piece, then you're right, you're never going to get there. Oh, I'm just a this, oh, I'm just a that,
yeah,
I'll never be
yeah,
a this, I can't do that. Instead of saying, how can I do this? I want to be this. How can I get there? What are the steps I need to take to get there? And what am I going to do when I encounter these challenges? I'd like to go back a little bit because in your intro, you identified several pieces of your program that make up your mindset program, and I'd like you to revisit those and expand upon those a little bit because I think those are really important tools for our audience to learn a little bit more about.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to remember what I said at the beginning. But you said components of my mindset
Yes,
coaching
yeah.
program, basically.
Yes.
So one of the first steps we take is building self-awareness.
Mhm.
Because like you mentioned it earlier, you cannot change what you don't know.
Mhm.
So if there is a challenge you're experiencing, in my clients' cases, it's consistency and resilience, mainly bad habits as well.
Yeah.
It's first identifying, all right, what is the problem? What are you having consistency issues with? Then it's identifying why are you inconsistent in this area? So if you're inconsistent on your health journey, why is that? Is it because of time management? Is it because of lack of resources? Is it because of a lack of bad routines, ineffective routines, bad habits? So we first identify what is the problem and what are the triggers for the problem, what leads to the problem, because we shouldn't really be addressing the problem. We should be addressing the root cause of the problem.
Mhm.
Even when it came to public speaking, I was terrified of public speaking. You put me in front of an audience, I talking about sweating, trembling, everything. I was bad, right? And I got tired of being scared of it. And one of my first steps, or actually, no, one of my first step with overcoming the fear of public speaking was first sitting down. I talked to myself, by the way. I said, Nate, why are you so scared of this? What's the problem? And I started thinking about how everyone in the audience would be looking at me, waiting for me to speak, waiting for me to mess up. And I got scared of messing up. And I realized no one is really scared of public speaking. People just really afraid of rejection.
Mhm.
They're scared of people rejecting them. They're scared of messing up. They're scared of looking bad. So how I was able to overcome that is by getting rid of the fear of other people's opinions. Once
Wow.
I started focusing on that, I was able to overcome public speaking. I wasn't focusing on overcoming public speaking fear. I focused on overcoming the fear of rejection.
Mhm.
That pushed me to be a confident speaker. So the first step in my coaching program is to build awareness. The second step is to identify your goals. What is it that you want to achieve exactly? And I get extremely specific. I hate vague goals. So we always break down the goals, identify specific goals, and we always break down the exact goals you want to achieve. Attach purpose and value because you need to attach meaning because it keeps you going. Then we develop structure. All right, we know where we want to go. We know what's the problem. We know where we want to go. Now, how are we going to get there? This is the structure, and that structure entails creating a system and creating the right habits. Once we have the structure, then we deal with consistency because getting started is one thing,
Mhm.
but staying consistent over the long term, that is where the major problem lies.
Yeah.
And so we focus on strategies for maintaining consistency, and that includes accountability as well.
Awesome.
And that's the general coaching, my general coaching program. I try to stick to the exact question you ask because I tend to go all over the place when I talk. I would start on one point and then go on 10 other points. I try to stick to the questions you ask.
No, that was awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Again, you've identified those things that you need to be successful, and I think you touched on one of the biggest ones is that consistency. Yeah, you can't achieve your goals if you don't stay consistent with it. You touched on, you went to the gym, you got your results that you wanted, and then you stopped going again because you had achieved that particular goal, but you did not maintain that status because you had again already set that goal and you achieved it. So just remaining consistent. Even today with me and Dave, with this podcast, we're approaching 150 episodes. And believe me, there were days when we're
Nice.
like, you know what, we don't feel like doing it, but it's what we, said we're going to do. And so to remain consistent with this and continue to do it is how you achieve the results that you desire. So
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that was a
absolutely.
mindset that you had.
Yep.
That
Yep.
was a definite, hey, that was a decision you made.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
You see?
Yep.
And mindset is based on decision. Mindset is really your internal script.
Yep.
So it's I look at mindset as being you look at an actor. An actor, what does an actor use a script for? To read, it tells an actor where to stand, where to sit, what to say.
Right.
Our internal script works the same way. Our internal script is our voice, our inner voice, that conversation we have in our head. If we can't
Mhm.
do this, we're not good enough. Who we are, who we believe we are. That voice in our head never shuts up. It's always going, and it has
Right.
opinions
Yep.
about everyone and everything.
Right.
Yes,
And
it
that
does.
script it doesn't shut up. And that script, that leads to every emotion we feel. That
Yep.
script leads to every action we take, and that script leads to every result we experience.
Yep.
And my focus on mindset is really getting persons to be more intentional about what's going on with that script, what that script is saying, what is that inner voice saying. Even I look at my younger days. I'm not old, but I look at my younger days. I had a serious anger management issue. I used to fight every week, and I talking about in my early 20s. I had a temper problem, and once again, I realized, through studying self mastery and getting old, I realized why I had the anger issue, and it was really because of insecurity. If someone stepped on my shoes or pushed me or talk about my mother or sends an insult my way, my thing is my script was I have to lash back out. I have to protect myself. I have to show my boys that I am a man because I'm responding. And that was the script. And when I was able to realize, hey, I'm not really I'm not really an angry person. I'm an insecure person. So I started to get over my insecurities, and that's how I was able to overcome my anger issues. But it's your script.
Yep.
Yeah, that is so powerful what you just said, Nathan. I
Yep.
mean that, and thank you for being so candid about your challenges. Those things, those insecurities affect us all, whether we realize it or not. And some people
Yep.
ignore those insecurities and, like you said, put up a different front for people to so that they can feel accepted when
Yeah,
they're actually doing just the opposite. They're pushing people away, or they're creating a boundary of lack of trust. What's that person going to do if I say this or if I don't say that? So, yeah, that is so powerful. Wow.
Well, it
definitely.
goes back to what you said about, your mind is always telling you these things. Even when you go back to, like you said, when you're the fear of speaking, it was your mind telling you people are going to laugh at you. They're not going to appreciate. They're not going to, respect you and all those things. And a lot of times our mind is our worst enemy. It again tries to help us, but at the same time it derails us because it's thinking of all those things that could be, and they're not reality, but our mind starts to gravitate to those things. And yeah, my mind is right, I can't do this, I can't do that. So that is very powerful, that we, if we can manage that, then we become better. We can, again, like you said, compensate for that, and then start thinking in terms of, okay, it's not that people don't believe me or they're going to laugh at me. It's more that this is my mind telling me that's what's going to happen. And so if I can get a hold of that, then like you said, you can go out there and be confident, and because now you have control of that negative, uh, you know, part of your mind is telling you you can't do those things. No different than, again, people not being able to continue with routines. They allow their mind to take over and say, you know what, my mind is right, I'm just going to go in there, sit on the couch, and have that ice cream because my mind
Yeah.
wants to do that versus going to the gym. So yeah, our mind, definitely, if we can control our mind in a positive way, we go much further. Using all that brain power and mind power for good versus, again, wallowing in whatever our mind wants to, what path it wants to direct us to. So
Yeah, and I really really like where you mentioned, there's that first step. That's important, but what's also extremely important is that consistency, that continuing to take those first
Yeah.
steps over and over and over and over, to where you're no longer first stepping, you're walking, and then you're walking briskly, and then you're jogging, and then you're running, and then you're sprinting, and then you're recuperating, and because you've reached another milestone. And that consistency is so important on so many on every journey, no matter what it is, whether it's a podcast, whether it's trying to get a certification, or quit smoking, or whatever. It's that consistency piece that is so important, and to turn off the negative voices in your head saying you can't do it, and or what are people going to say, and just saying, I'm doing this for me because this is who I want to be. This is what I want my identity to be.
Yeah, and it's like you say, like both of you just said, your mind can take you either way. It can move you
Mhm.
forward or it can hold you back.
Yep.
But it all depends, and our default is to focus on things that are going wrong in our lives. Focus on the obstacle as
Mhm.
opposed to focusing on the solution.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Our default is to focus on what's going wrong as opposed to focus on what's going right. But through reframing and training our mind, because you have to train, it's like a muscle. So if I do enough
Mhm.
bicep curls, my muscle is going to grow. It's just
Yeah.
like your mind. You focus more on training your mind to think positive, to focus on the right things instead of the wrong things, to change what you're saying about yourself, your belief, like you, and you constantly do that over and over again, day after day, week after week, then your mind becomes stronger. Then your mind actually pushes you to where you want to go as opposed to holding you back.
Mhm.
Yep.
See, and like I said, self mastery, and it's all self mastery, but self mastery is not a, okay, I've reached the peak. No, self mastery is, hey, I've gotten to a certain level. Now let me get better. Then let me
Yep.
get better.
Yep.
So even when
Absolutely.
it comes to, anger management, for example, you get a little better at it every time. When it comes to staying consistent, overcome procrastination, you just keep getting better at it. It does, even though I teach persons how to stay consistent and how to avoid, reduce procrastination, I still procrastinate sometimes.
Yep.
I would never say I don't never procrastinate. That would be a big lie. I'm a human, right? But my procrastination, I've learned how to manage my procrastination so I can still get to where I need to be. So it doesn't hinder me
Mhm.
from getting to where I need to be. And that's all what it is, being better versions, plural, of yourself.
Yep.
Because you're constantly refining and mastering yourself. So you're becoming different versions of yourself throughout your entire life. That's why I don't necessarily say become the best version of yourself. I say become better versions of yourself.
Wow.
Continuous
Yeah, I
process.
like that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because you're right. Because I've said that often, being the best version of yourself. But you're right. It is that continuously improvement process, and that's why I always tell people I'm always going to be a lifelong learner because I'm going to
Yeah.
want to try and improve myself over and over again. Like we kind of started, I think maybe offline. We talked about maybe we haven't talked about it, but me and Dave with this podcast, we keep elevating, we keep moving it to the next level because that's what it's about. It is continuously getting better and
Mhm.
better. Where is this going to take you? Even like with speaking, for me, speaking was also a terrible thing in my mind. Yeah, I failed speech in high school just because I was terrified to get in front of people. And now, I'm on a podcast talking all the time. I've talked to large groups of people. Not to say that I've mastered it, like you said, I still have butterflies. I still, walk up thinking, oh, is this going to be good or not? But the fact that I keep doing it and getting better at it, like you said, and getting better, that's the whole idea of that self mastery or that continuous improvement. And so I subscribe to that theory that we have to, and that's why we talk about critical self reflection on here so much, because you have to continually do that. You can't just get, okay, I reached this plateau, I'm good, I'm done, I don't need to do anything else. You have to continue to elevate yourself to be prepared for the next thing. And so I really appreciate you bringing that into the conversation as well. Just that, and I like the way you said it, not just, be the best version, but the best versions of yourself. What that, and it they don't exist yet because you haven't reached those levels yet. So that's why I
Absolutely.
like it because I say this all the time. I'm excited about what's next. I'm living
Yeah.
in the moment, but I'm also excited about where does this take us? This conversation with us three, where does this go
Mhm.
from here? And so that's the way I view things, kind of that same, delight from like when a kid's in a candy store. That's the way I feel when we're talking on our podcast, when we're talking in these types of arenas and spaces. So again, appreciate that. Wow. Again, this whole episode has
Yeah.
been just so cool. It really has been.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we're
Awesome.
at time. So Nathan, what would you like to leave the audience with as we close out the show?
My takeaway would be to focus on mind mastery. Focus on changing your internal script, meaning your limiting belief, getting rid of limiting belief, changing, refining what you focus on, and changing your perceptions, how you choose to see things. You focus on those three things, you can focus on mastering your mindset for more intentional results. And like I say, it's not a end all be all, it's just you keep getting better, becoming better versions of yourself. So don't look for, all right, I spent a whole year mastering my mindset, I am done. This is what I call till death do us part.
Yep. Yep.
So just keep the focus on self mastery and watch your life change.
Wow.
Awesome. Joe,
Wow.
what are your final thoughts?
Again, this has been amazing. We do appreciate you bringing your perspective to this podcast because we talked about mindset before, but again, you've introduced some new things. Will gain something more from this. So even me, like I say, I've been a person that says, be the best version of yourself, but now I'm thinking in terms of the best versions of myself. So I appreciate that, and again, appreciate you being on the podcast.
My
So
pleasure.
So
Thank you.
with that, thank you, Nathan, for joining us today for this podcast. It was so awesome. We could talk about this for hours and hours and hours. So with that, we want to thank our viewers and listeners for joining us on another episode of the Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast, your personal, professional, and career development podcast. If you'd like to reach out to Nathan Sweeting, we'll have his information in the description, and feel free to reach out to him. And if you have any questions, he's happy to answer them. And so, with that, until next time, we want you to keep on being your not so ordinary you.